Well, we are live. Yes, we are. Better than the alternative with us, WeatherBrains, episode number 437 for June the 9th, 2014. And this is going to be an interesting evening in that we've got some weather issues where I happen to be, which will mean this might be a good show because I probably can't participate very much. My sophomoric comments, 7th grade locker room remarks will be absent to some degree.
Be the worst show ever.
And then I just spilled a drink all over the
that's not a good
trackpad. No, thankfully not the computer. Trackpads are not as expensive as a computer, and it's one of these drinks. I rarely ever drink those drinks, but I'm out of the ones I drink. So it's just going to be one of these evenings. And I'm having a delicious dinner. This is it. Macaroni and cheese in the microwave.
Better than no food at all, huh?
Exactly. I'm not going to gripe. I'm not going to gripe. Yeah, this is going to be good and sticky. Good and sticky. Yes, it's going to be the three intellectuals that you see that will be carrying this program this evening.
And John Scala.
That's right. I forget John. I got to get him in here. I'm still getting used to the.
I don't know if Rick is going to join or not.
Yeah, he's like out of town.
Yeah. And Aubrey looked like she was in line to be on.
I'm on.
She's here.
Can you hear me?
Hey, Aubrey.
Hey, I'm not in last place anymore, Bill.
You passed me?
No, I'm just not in last place.
Who's in last place then?
I don't know. I thought you sent an email that said I'm not in last place.
I didn't. That's that silly computer that does that. So if I ever write in, if you think I wrote something ugly about your team, it was not me. It was the computer.
Mm-hmm.
I made fun of the name, Span Suspenders.
I kept wondering. I'm like, I know I'm in last place, Bill. You don't have to keep rubbing it in.
No, I had nothing to do with those ugly emails. I get them too.
I was like, I was doing good at first. Span Suspenders is on a comeback.
You win the best name award.
Thank you. By the way, James, the fiance just texted me and thought he was just pranked at work because he got a phone call and he swore it sounded like James Spann.
Hello, this is James Spann calling. Let's talk about shelf clouds.
Oh, I hear Rick. I see Rick Smith.
Hello.
He's in our nation's capital, somewhere up there.
I'm in Silver Spring, Maryland.
Oh, you're up by me.
WCM meeting?
Yep, National WCM Conference. First one since 2000, I think.
Good Lord, has it been that long?
Ken, Bill Murray, and the gang at WeatherBrains, can you hear us? Yes, James, can you hear Ken? Can anyone hear Ken besides me?
Nope.
Nope.
No, that's not good. No.
Nice shirt, John.
I thought you'd like that.
I'm not wearing mine tonight.
I did it for Jeff Craven also.
Nice touch.
Okay, talk for a second, Ken. Ken? Can anyone hear Ken?
Nope.
That's not a good sign, guys. I may not be able to get him into this call. All right, this is Mission Control in Houston. We'll be going through the emergency checklist. Be back in a minute.
Yeah, and again, for those just joining us here, I will be excessively distracted, if not out of service for a pretty good chunk of the show here. We've got some really significant storms with gusty winds, down trees, power lines, passing through my DMA, which means...
Are you still on the air?
Yeah, they're still west of the city. They'll be coming through here in about 1 hour.
Yeah, they're about Tuscaloosa right now.
No, but I mean, are you still still have a job? They haven't pulled the plug?
She gets right to the
let's
point.
Let's talk about the jabronis here, the new owners. No, I don't know. I'm still waiting on their phone call. No, I've been so busy I haven't even thought about these people lately. But if you're one of our new owners, if you're one of the jabronis, please give me a call. 1-800-JamesBand.com.
Oh my gosh.
Bill, you struggling?
Y'all can't hear Ken for some reason, and I hear him fine.
Maybe he needs to talk.
Yeah,
louder.
Ken, I can hear you, but yeah, scream really loudly, Ken. Is that
Barely.
any better?
Barely.
Okay.
I mean, there's zero.
I don't think I can make him any louder, though.
I mean, there's nothing to turn up. I mean, there's nothing. Nary a thing. Silence.
We can try your landline if you want, Ken. All right, I'll call you right back on it. All right. This Skype deal just does not work well at all. Because I've got everything I've got jacked up as high as it'll go. And it's aggravating to have the latency through the sound flower. Okay.
Yeah, this is like dull. I mean, typically we're saying some outrageous things here. And it's like I'm slightly preoccupied.
Sorry, I'm trying to eat. I haven't eaten dinner yet.
No, we just reviewed my dinner is special. We have
Can y'all hear that ring?
no.
Oh, that's tasty.
Mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Guess Jack Craven has been promoted to Guess WeatherBrains.
That's not the organic, healthy version, James.
This is the Kraft macaroni and cheese in the microwave from the Walgreens. And I don't have any of the Coke Zeros I typically drink, so we have one of these, which is not very good.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You're killing me.
Yeah.
Sugar, chemicals, aspartame, artificial sugar.
This is the reason I have no hair. You see.
And I have on good authority that the mac and cheese is aged.
Yeah, it's probably been here for a while. No, I buy these down at the Walgreens down the streets. I mean, there's always Brian knows there's emergency rations in this room.
And I happen to know that some of those were bought January 28th.
28 during the snow crisis. Yes.
Yes.
Of what year?
Yeah.
I have
Fortunately, this year.
So I have one of these, and I think this was a January 28th purchase.
I think so.
I think this is beef
That's
tips.
one of Davy's flat dinners. That's
Well,
what
that's
they
called-
are, James.
Well, it doesn't say. It says complete.
When JB ever said he ate a flat dinner, that's what it was.
Well, so why is this? If it's not flat, I mean, it's like.
Well, you tell me. I have no idea where he came up with the name.
Got a flat top.
But that's what they are.
It's
When he
complete.
sent me to Publix to buy flat dinners, that's what I had to get.
Wow.
So I stick this in the microwave for like a minute 30 seconds, and you have to poke holes in the little thing on top of it, and these are not that bad.
Might want to check the recall notice on that.
Get any more processed than that.
Berea makes a nice whole grain wheat pasta that they sell, and it's very low calorie, and it's all like natural stuff that I eat and stuff like that. I keep a dozen of those in my desk.
See, Aubrey, we need to do a nutrition show here, just for television weather people, or weather people in general. I mean, not even television, weather service, whoever, because we don't eat right.
But there are healthy things you can keep in your desk.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. You need to give us a list of the things that, like, and again, the problem is, like, within a very short distance of the TV station, I have a Walgreens, and there's a Publix. There's a full
I love
supermarket
Publix.
down here. So you give us a list, and we'll just go
All right.
stock up on the healthy stuff.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I love Mountain Dew in the trackpad. There's your show.
All right.
All right, James, I want you to try water with cucumber in it. I think I froze him.
That went over real well, I'm sure.
Do what now?
I said, James, I want you to try water with cucumber in it instead.
And we all laughed.
What?
Water
with a cucumber?
It's not a whole cucumber, just a few slices. It's very refreshing in the summer.
I got some kale over here you can eat, James.
Yeah.
All right, can y'all hear that ringing?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
yes.
Oh, thank God. Shelf cloud outside my room.
Post a picture on Twitter. There's not very many out there.
Logical Society.
Oh, great. Now we get his voicemail.
Who's this you're calling?
He's the director of publications for the AMS, and he doesn't like...
900.
Is he the guy that doesn't like Google Hangouts? Or just being on camera, or what? By the way, welcome to our cable television audience. We're glad you're with us. You know, this is WeatherBrains. We're about to start the show here very shortly.
Bill, you there?
There we go.
Yay!
I can hear you now.
I hear something.
Excellent.
Yay. All right. Let's make this thing happen.
I bet
Before
you
we
I'm going
lose
to
it.
Twitter jail soon. You know, this WLAN4, this
Uh-oh.
He's in Google Plus jail, too.
Sounds like it.
I found a way to cover myself up with the current call information. That's pretty cool. All right, bring President Craven.
Do we need to stand?
All of us but you, Rick. You've been in the presence of the real president, so.
It's just down the street.
Yeah. I'm surprised you didn't get him on the show tonight.
Yeah. I got here a little late.
I hear he's a big WeatherBrains fan.
Of course.
Isn't everybody?
Yes.
If Jeff Craven sends me one more question mark, I'm going to scream. John Scala can appreciate that.
Absolutely, Bill. Jeff just entertained us for a couple of days.
He sure did. He did a good job leading the meeting.
He's doing a great job, actually, as president. I'm very impressed.
If nothing else, he should give out stock advice.
That's true, actually. Well, we can talk about the barbecue we ate on Saturday.
Aww.
Best barbecue I've eaten in a while.
Like real barbecue, not just grill out.
Oh no, this was a gas station in Norman.
Right.
Usually the best places.
Oh, it was great. Great. Complete with signs on the wall that said, "Your mother doesn't work here, so clean up after your mess."
Is that right down the street from the Weather Center?
Yeah, that's right. Right off of Highway 9.
Yep.
You probably know it, right, Rick?
Yep. Been there a couple of times.
So do you guys have like certain places that deliver on busy weather days?
Not nearly enough.
You got to strike up those relationships. Be like, hey, we're busy saving lives. We get hungry.
Yeah.
Bring us free food.
Yeah, if we think about it in time, we can order pizza, but
Sometimes you don't even
sometimes
realize
you're
you're
just
hungry.
so busy you don't even think about it.
Yeah.
You just go down
No,
to
that
the
is.
Spotted Flying Cow or whatever it's called, right?
Or the cow
They don't
flies by
the same
you.
hours we do, though.
That's true. All right. It's like the professor in college. How long do we have to wait for Span?
Oh, are we ready?
He's busy tweeting.
Oh, yeah. Are we ready?
Severe storms with potential winds continue to move east.
Are we like ready to go here?
I
That
think
didn't
so.
look healthy, Aubrey.
Huh?
I thought I was waiting on on a guest here. All right, well, let's get this thing going. All right, sorry. Yeah, you can tell I will be slightly distracted for this whole thing.
It's all the sugar he drank.
Yeah, exactly. Let me be sure the music's right. Yep, I can see the meters kicking. Here we go. Let me get the recorders going. Nice thing about this thing, going to YouTube, if I forget the record buttons, you can always go back and pull the audio from YouTube. So that's my standby. Here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. WeatherBrains! Yes, it is the weekly weather podcast. WeatherBrains, this is episode number 437. This is for the 9th of June, 2014, as we are sailing into meteorological summer. I'm James, and let me just say up front, I will be slightly distracted this evening due to active weather in my market, which means our guests will be dealing with probably some people other than me, and that's a good thing. Aubrey Urbanowitz is in a quieter place where the weather in lovely Harrisonburg is always beautiful.
It is.
How
It
beautiful is it today?
It's beautiful. It's nice and green outside. Everything's green and it's warm. A little humidity. No, I don't think we saw any rain today, so we're smooth sailing. We'll see more this week.
Very nice. Well, glad you're here. We've got Brian Peters, the internationally beloved meteorologist. Brian?
Good evening. I'm looking at the radar and keeping up with what's going on, and I discovered that when you clog up your rain gauge, you don't measure rain. Did you know that?
We have a problem with bird poop and leaves, and what else clogs those things up?
I don't
Spider
know.
webs.
I couldn't figure.
Spiders.
Yeah, spiders. I
Spiders.
couldn't figure out what it was. I thought it was the battery, but as it turns out, when I got up on the roof, it was like, uh-oh, the bucket is full.
So, Brian, we would like you to tell us how was your poll workers convention? You were absent, I think, last week.
Well, yes.
And Mr. Murray alleged that this meeting took place at the Wesley's Booby Trap Lounge. Is there any truth to that?
It did not. It was at the Pelham Civic Center.
Okay.
Us overpaid, underpaid actually, poll workers. It's kind of a volunteer job, but you get this little check in the mail a few days after the polls. So, but it's always fun to see friends and vote, exercise your right to vote.
Brian, when you were WCM in your days working for NOAA, did you get to go on these cool trips like Rick?
Well, actually, I think Rick was just telling me that he thinks the last WCM conference was from my day. So that means they haven't had one in a long time.
So Rick Smith, our active WCM from Oklahoma City, is not in Oklahoma. He is in Maryland tonight. Rick, tell us about the big party up there.
I don't feel very active. It's been a long day, but I'm here. This is we are here on the 10th floor of the beautiful DoubleTree Hotel in downtown Silver Spring for the National WCM Conference. It kicks off tomorrow. Lots of good stuff. It's the first one of these we've had since 2000, and getting to meet a lot of people and trying to remember their little Twitter avatars to see if I can put a name with a face with a Twitter handle. But it's going well so far. We kick off bright and early tomorrow morning, and lots of good stuff planned.
Crickets.
Yeah, very good. Again, I'm having this is one of these nights where just everything's not working. I got weather problems. We have internet connectivity problems. So, Dr. John, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to back out. I think Dr. John needs to be the host of the program. He is a hosty kind of guy.
Jeff Craven.
Yeah, where is Jeff?
Oh, do we have, is he going to be on Google Plus, or is he going to be on Skype?
No, he's on Google Plus.
Oh, well, let's bring him in. Goodness.
Yes.
He's been sitting since 8 o'clock.
Well, I've been so busy. I've seen the traffic, and I just thought it was a Skype thing. So we have officially invited Jeff.
Apologize to him before you leave, Jeff.
Yeah.
President of the NWA.
Got to have the president, yeah.
I'm about to be defrocked and kicked out of the club here.
Your ski user being erased.
Yeah, he's going to triple my dues.
No, that's my business. I make that call, James.
Okay. Here he
the
comes.
treasurer and the president.
Yeah, when Tuscaloosa County goes under warning, that's when I have to go. So John or Bill, one of you guys take it. I'll be back
All
here.
right, James. We can handle this. I'm actually watching the radar right now. Yeah, out of Tuscaloosa, well, out of Birmingham. You got a line heading right towards you with some embedded cells.
Thank you.
He's gone. There he is. There's our president.
Hail to the chief.
There's Mr. President. Hail to the chief.
We welcome the NWA, that is the National Weather Association President, Jeff Craven. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you, thank you.
Glad we can finally put you on board here.
Can you hear me?
Ben was supposed to apologize to you before he left, Jeff.
Yeah, we can hear you, Jeff.
Okay. Hard to tell, actually. So, did that squall line get in the way of doing the show?
It's entering the scene now, actually.
Okay.
We're using it as an
Hopefully it won't be too bad.
Yeah, just a number of severe thunderstorm warnings on it right now. There's a severe thunderstorm watch in the area and tornado watch further north. We were just reminiscing about Saturday's lunch.
Wow, there's so many things to reminisce about, and lunch was one of them. Well, you know, I love the seafood diet, so whenever I see food, I tend to eat food. So.
But Jeff, you've lost a tremendous amount of weight since I last saw you. What is it, 30 pounds now?
Yeah, been working on it. It's been slow and steady, about a pound a week, maybe 2 pounds a week for a while since January. So I'm happy.
That's
My
the best
family.
way.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jeff, you're bringing it. Go ahead, Brian.
No, I just said congratulations. I know how hard it is to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was harder to lose with so many excuses to eat and maybe drink a little bit, and so
Amen.
it's always hard. And then I came into work this morning, and there's a couple dozen donuts there, so I had to do a U-turn.
Uh-oh.
Well, speaking of work, maybe we should focus a little bit on the weather, eh? So, Jeff, you are the Science and Operations Officer up in Milwaukee. You've had an interesting career. You were at the Storm Prediction Center for a while, and many of us actually use an index that you developed. Maybe you could talk about that a little.
Well, what we did is when working with Harold Brooks and some others, the Storm Prediction Center and NSSL, we found that if you do a simple product, if you multiply the mean lifted CAPE, which is the average instability when you take temperature and dew point in the lowest kilometer of the atmosphere, and you multiply it by what we call deep layer shear, which is roughly surface to we call it 6 kilometers, but that's about 20,000 feet up, you get a very nice signal. And in fact, if you look over Alabama right now on the SIG Severe Index, you'll find that the values have red contours. They're over 30,000. In fact, there's some that's up around 50,000 units. And that's fairly favorable for severe thunderstorms, and you see them moving across Alabama right now.
Jeff, how do you use that?
It has an index named after him.
I heard, how do you use that? And then I heard index. Sorry, a little bit of interference there.
Go ahead, Bill. Go ahead and repeat your question.
I said, Jeff, it's nice to have someone who has an index named after them on the show.
Well, I appreciate that. It's there's so many. I call it the significant severe index, but it seems like a lot of the indices associated with severe weather end up with them being named after them, like the Corfiti vectors. Steve Corfiti came up with those, but he doesn't call them Corfiti vectors. He calls them MCS propagation vectors. So it's a little bit embarrassing and humbling, but yet I'm happy it works out and it's useful for the field.
Now, I've heard Steve call them the me vectors before. Not really.
That's a mesoscale. I think it's mesoscale beta element. So that's what. But if you take the B out, it's a me vector, right? Which would work well for him.
That's right.
Well, Jeff, we want to talk to you tonight about the NWA, and we welcome you as a panelist, and thank you for being here tonight.
Well, I appreciate it, and it's always a pleasure. And it was almost 2 years ago I was on last time, and I'm flattered to be on again.
We threatened to make you a permanent panelist last time, and we still may hold you to that. So thank you for being with us. But tonight we've got the president of the National Weather Association, and we've got the person who is the head of publications for the American Meteorological Society. Ken Heidemann joins us tonight from Boston. Ken, welcome to the show. Ken may have gone away.
I heard the Skype hang-up noise, Bill, so I think he hung up on us.
He decided he was on the wrong show. He thought he'd walked into an NWA trap.
About to say.
All right, we'll ring him up one more time, and then. What
Hello?
do you say, James? Ken?
Yeah, hi.
All right, there we go. Ken, I just was bragging on you and your AMS. All this, so I won't go through it all again for the audience, but we're glad to have you on the show tonight.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so sorry I missed you bragging on me, though. I wish I'd heard that.
So just tell all the members of the AMS to go back and listen tomorrow. On second thought, don't have anybody listen to this show at all after the way the first 15 minutes have gone. But tonight's guest weather brain is actually a suggestion of a friend of mine, Sarah Jane Shangraw, who is one of the editors at the AMS Publications, works with Ken, told me about you, and we're glad to have you here. So, Ken, tell us a little bit about your career and how you got to the position you're in now.
Well, if you want to go all the way back, I was one of those people that was smitten at a very young age by the weather bug, age 4, and a lot of us in this field can go back to when they were kids. So started way back then, and I went to Penn State for graduate school, and I started off my career in Boulder, Colorado, as a weather researcher. I went to Hanscom Air Force Base outside of Boston in 1989. Then in 1998, which is on June 1st, 1998, so basically 16 years ago, I started the best job I ever had, which was here at the American Meteorological Society.
So, Ken, you had some ties or some memories, or at least some information about the Worcester tornado, didn't you?
Well, I thought it was kind of amazing that, or serendipitous that this show tonight would be on the 61st anniversary of the Great Worcester tornado. I don't know if all of your listeners know about that storm, but Worcester is just outside of Boston. It's about 20 minutes from where I am right now, and it was the site on June 9th, 1953, of one of the most violent, deadly tornadoes in U.S. history. And so I've been a bit of a student of that particular storm.
So, anything interesting that you've learned about it that you think the audience would find fascinating?
Well, sure. Back in 1953, there was, first of all, the science of severe weather forecasting and was in its infancy, and there was also an unwritten rule that there would be no mention of the word tornado as a possibility in any kind of a weather forecast. There were a number of forecasters on that day that knew there was a possibility of a tornado in the New England area, but they did not put that in their forecast. what ended up saving some people was the fact that the day before in Flint, Michigan, there was a very strong tornado that killed something like 115 people there.
Right.
And the story of the Flint tornado appeared on the front page of the Worcester papers on June 9th. And when people were reading that story and listening to the description of what a tornado sounds like when it's approaching and all of that, they realized what was bearing down on them, and they took cover. So it wasn't any kind of a formal warning. It was just looking at the newspaper about the story of a tornado that occurred the day before in Flint, Michigan.
And
so
that tornado still is one of the worst ones in the history of Michigan, isn't it, Ken?
Yeah.
But that's one of the worst ones in the history of Michigan, and this one here, 94 fatalities, and up until Joplin in 2011, that was the last tornado to take at least 90 lives. So that gives you some sense of severity of it. And also that particular year, 1953, there were 517 tornado fatalities in the United States. That's the fourth highest total ever. And the Worcester tornado is a big part of that. And it was really that year was the impetus for forming what would become the National Severe Storms Lab a number of years later. And, back then, that tornado, by the way, was on the ground for 84 minutes, and about 35 or 40 minutes of that was west of Worcester approaching Worcester. And there was no way of warning the city of Worcester at that time. So if a similar storm happened today, there'd be a big difference.
Now, check my history here, Ken, or Dr. Scala, or Rick, or any of the smart people on the panel here. Hadn't the cells been formed at that point and was actually in operation?
I think it might have been at the very, very beginning of cells, but maybe the other panelists have more information on that.
So, Rick, do you have any memory of that?
I think you're right, Bill. I think that the only reason I remember is there was a big event in 1952 around the Memphis area where I used to live, and I know there were some forecasts that were done for that, I think. And if Jeff Craven's still on, he might have the answer too. He used to work there, but I think it was already in existence, in its very early stages in '53.
And one thing I remember historically about these 2 days of tornadoes is that the Flint tornado was well forecast by this cells unit, but that no one really thought from historical analogs that something would happen like Worcester. Is that a memory that anyone has?
Well, I don't think that anybody ever imagined that a tornado of the strength and ferocity of that tornado would occur in east central Massachusetts. I mean, that was a tornado 3/4 of a mile wide. I mean, that's a monster tornado anywhere in Oklahoma or Kansas or anywhere like that. And certainly in New England, nothing had ever been seen like that before.
And any other things that you can share about Worcester? Any other things that come to mind, Ken?
Well, let's see. It was just 3 weeks ago. I actually met a survivor of the tornado. I've talked to a lot of people who were around in 1953 or remember that storm or were in other places when it happened. But this person, who's now 60, if I got my math right, 68 years old, and she was 7. Yeah, that works. She was 7 on that day, June 9th, and she was at a friend's house, just a couple of houses away from her own, and she said that her friend's mom saved the 2 kids by throwing them in the basement just before the tornado hit. So it was a direct hit on both that house and also her mother's house, and her brother was with her mother. And fortunately, this story has a happy ending as far as all of those people were concerned because they all survived. The family dog did not survive, But she, she has lifelong memories of that day and what it sounded like and all of that. So it's really interesting talking to someone who actually lived through the storm. And also, if you drive through the northern part of Worcester, there's still some partially visible scars of the storm. It really traumatized everybody who went through it at that time.
So Ken, obviously books are a big part of what you do for AMS Publications. Talk about your job and what you do day in, day out.
So I'm the director of publications for AMS, and we have a journals program that I think a lot of people know about. We have 11 scholarly peer-reviewed journals, and maybe not as many people know about our books program. And that's the one that Sarah Jane Shangra, who you mentioned before, directs. We brought her on in 2005 to basically try to build a book program out of essentially nothing. I mean, we did have a monograph program that's gone on for many, many years. And monographs are, they're not really books, but they're collections of scholarly articles with a common theme. But Sarah Jane came in, and she slowly but surely, book by book, has built a really strong, award-winning book program. And we have books on many topics, including your health. It could be synoptics, convection, climate, air pollution, policy, economics, weather and industry, the biographies of meteorology pioneers, the history of science. We also step out of the box sometimes, and we have published recently a joke book called Partly to Mostly Funny, the Ultimate Weather Joke Book.
And Ken, we had Dr. Lourdes Aviles on the show back in October, and of course she's one of your newer books. Talk about that book and how it relates to the other offerings, and what you're looking for from prospective authors.
Well, we're basically we're an I guess you could call us an opportunistic public. We are very open to acquiring books on any of the topics that I mentioned, and we're not afraid to push the envelope a little bit. We like to think that we offer the combination of a sophisticated book program, but we're also smart enough to give the kind of personal attention that large publishing houses just can't and won't do. So we have the book that I just mentioned. We also have our next big book coming out is The Thinking Person's Guide to Climate Change by Rob Wilson. He's also the author of Weather on the Air, A History of Broadcast Meteorology. So you want to be looking for that one. And some other titles that people know about, Northeast Snowstorms, the definitive on that subject by Louis Uccellini and Paul Cosin. Eloquent Science by David Schultz, which is basically a Bible for graduate students and anybody publishing in the meteorological journal world. Last year, Taken by Storm, the story of the 1938 Great New England Hurricane. That was by Lourdes Aviles, and that's an award-winning book. And that commemorated the 75th anniversary of that storm. So we partner with the University of Chicago Press, our distributor, which allows us to get into places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and classrooms, places we wouldn't be able to get into ourselves. And we have a great new, if I could shamelessly plug this, a great new bookstore that we encourage people to go check out. That is store.ametsoc.org. You'll find reviews, discounts, there's free shipping for members. We encourage people to check that out.
So you are a big believer in emergency preparedness and communicating and educating about the weather. Obviously, what you do with the books is a part of that. How else are you involved in improving those areas, Ken?
Well, you know what I really wanted to do when I when I got into the field was I wanted to be an emergency preparedness meteorologist for the National Weather Service, and events took me in other directions. But I just one of the things that excites me most about this field is the opportunity through educating folks, students, teachers, emergency managers, is the opportunity to save lives and also to save lives, save property, and improve the quality of life for people by educating them about the weather. I mean, weather affects everybody, and it's the great equalizer. You know, the atmosphere doesn't care if you're rich or poor or famous or anything like that. So that's always been an exciting thing for me about this field. As far as what I do personally and what we do at AMS, we basically disseminate the best research that's going on out there in terms of improving weather forecasts. Ultimately, that's what we're all in the business for. So instead of doing the actual research, we're on the other end of it, helping to disseminate it to as many people as possible. So it's kind of an indirect way of doing it, but I think an important way as well.
So Ken, talk for a minute about how a prospective author would go about getting a title in front of your team.
Well, what you want to do is you can email me, and basically what you can do is go to the our www.ametsoc.org, our homepage, and find my name or Sarah Jane Shangra, and basically send a proposal, first an informal proposal in an email will do. And if that looks good, then what Sarah Jane's going to do is come back to you and ask for a formal book proposal, which would include you know, what the aim of the book is, whether there's a market is, other similar books are out there right now, that kind of thing, the typical kind of book proposal that you would make, and then we go on from there. And we're looking for authors and titles, and we encourage people to submit their ideas to us.
Now, Ken, talk about book publishing in general. You know, what's the future of it, and how is it changing over time with electronic title?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the electronic end of it. We partner with Springer for ebooks, and ebooks are becoming a very popular way for people to read books. I don't know about you, Bill, but personally, I like to hold a book.
Mm-hmm.
Turn the pages, but there are a lot of people out there who would love to have read their books on devices, whether Nook or their iPad or whatever. So we have an ebook program through Springer, and there's always the debate, you know, not just with books but with journals as well, about the future of print. Is there a future of print, or is it just you know, disappear forever? And I know I have my own opinion on that, which is there's always going to be people that want print, that want their content delivered that way. But they're going to have to pay the incremental additional cost of the print in order to get it. But at AMS, we're not going to unilaterally kill print and dictate to people the way that they're going to receive their content. As long as one person wants print and is willing to pay for it, then we'll make it available in print.
So, Ken, I guess you are over BAMS and other AMS publications too. Is that true or not?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Are you over the BAMS part of the publications process too?
Yes. BAMS is our you can call it our flagship journal publication. our membership publication.
So is there any
it's
move
definitely
to
one of
ever
our
move
11
that to
journals.
strictly electronic publication, or will it always stay a printed publication as far as you can see?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, and of course I don't have all the say in this, but as far as I'm concerned, there'll always be a print component to BAMS, and we have an outstanding digital version of BAMS that it really is like, you know, reading a hard copy in front of you. It's really amazing, and I encourage people to check that out. Available to members. But a lot of BAMS readers, and there are 15,000 of them roughly, do still want their BAMS in print, and they've made that very clear. So we want to accommodate people in whatever form that they like to read, the bulletin or any of the journals or books.
So any other advice you have for aspiring publishers and what you're looking for specifically other than just general topics? You know, be more specific, Ken, and talk about, you know, they're probably not the typical disaster books. They're going to be more meteorologically oriented, or what?
Yeah, well, we you know, of course, no pun intended, you know, a very hot topic right now is climate change. And, you know, we're looking for books on that topic. Are you there?
Sorry, Ken, that's an internal joke.
Okay. We're looking for books on that topic, any other topic that are going to generate discussion and ignite interest. A recent book that we have published is Living on the Real World: How Thinking and Acting Like Meteorologists Will Help Save the Planet. That's by Bill Hook. You know, that's an example of the kind of thought-provoking book that we're looking to publish. And we also we don't, as a rule, publish textbooks, but we have recently published an outstanding one in mid-latitude synoptic meteorology. So we publish right across the spectrum in meteorology and related fields, and we really encourage people. You know, a lot of people think, oh, this book could never work. If you think that way, just send us the idea, because you know, we might be able to make it work, and we might be able to give an opportunity to an author that would not get an opportunity from one of the bigger publishers.
Well, I know that it's quite an honor to be published by the AMS. Talk about other things that are going on there in the organization. Any inside baseball you can give us, Ken?
If you mention inside baseball, I might actually start talking about the Red Sox and stuff like that. But you mean inside baseball as far as the AMS goes?
Well, Aubrey is a big Yankees fan, so you know she might take umbrage.
Yes, she is, and she just got her tickets for a game.
All right.
So we respect Yankees.
Of course. It's a kind rivalry.
But basically, you know, we're excited about that. There's no better time to be in meteorology than right now, in terms of the topic of changing climate, the global warming, the debate around that. As you know, there's not anywhere close to unanimity within our own field, much less outside our field. So we're very excited to be kind of in the middle of that. And what we are basically is we try to facilitate interaction among the three major sectors of meteorology, and that would be the academic sector, the government sector, and the private sector. We're trying to get all of those folks to talk to each other. They are competitors, but they find that when they work together, that everybody wins. And our job at the AMS is to help facilitate those discussions among those three major sectors.
So Ken, anything else that we need to know or about the publications department, or anything else that you got cool that's coming up?
Well, I would just encourage people to check us out for sure if you're not already a subscriber to our journals, and take a look at definitely go to the bookstore. It's a wonderful news site, and we've got a large and growing catalog. A lot of great books, great prices. Members get free shipping. So I thank you for allowing me to shill like this. But I wouldn't be bragging about the program if it wasn't a great program. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your show.
Well, we wouldn't have you on if we didn't believe in it, too. And I walked away with enough books to fill a shelf in my library from Atlanta this year, Ken, so we appreciate that. I know Jeff Craven's got another question for you about the Worcester tornado.
Yeah, as it turns out, earlier I guess I was doing some research when you posed the question. It turns out that the early years of the fully staffed Storm Prediction Center were about a year before the Worcester outbreak. It was in May of 1952 that the unit that had developed around 4 years after some of the early work by Fabish and Miller out at Tinker Air Force Base. So that was about a year before that, and I wanted to show that a lot of people are interested in some of the recent multi-day outbreaks that we've had. Can you see my screen there? It's interesting that you have the Flint Day where there's violent tornadoes from northwest Ohio up into almost up to the Alpena area. There was an EF3. Worcester was really the only reported tornado that day, but the forgotten outbreak was the day before across the plains. Now, there weren't any reported violent tornadoes in that outbreak, but these multi-day strong and violent tornado outbreaks like we've seen in recent years aren't really that uncommon. You can get high-risk type days 2-3 days in a row like that. So it's interesting. There was probably more tornadoes around the New England area, but our reporting back then was a little bit less robust than it is now.
Yeah, it looks like the stronger ones were east.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ken.
I was just going to say that, as Jeff just said, an air mass that's capable of producing tornadoes on one day, it's an air mass that really needs to be watched the next day as it moves across the country, because as we've seen in these multi-day outbreaks that that can happen, often does happen, and we know that now as almost a rule of thumb in terms of severe weather forecasting. Even though the CELS unit was created the year before the Worcester tornado and those tornadoes in 1953, it was still a number of years of really developing the forecast techniques that would identify the high probability days for tornadoes. In fact, what are the major ingredients in tornadic storms? It was the CELS unit that began in 1952 that over a period of years developed these forecasting techniques. You mentioned indexes earlier, those things like total totals and CAPE and all of those things. It took some time for that, for those techniques to be refined and to be used as they are today.
So you talked about a forgotten outbreak the day before. Are you referring to June 7th, 1953, Jeff?
Yes, it was out in the plains, and again, because of the lack of fatalities that previous day, it probably, it obviously was a lot of damage out there and actually more reported tornadoes, but again, a lot of these memorable events, much like what we saw unfortunately in 2011 with Joplin and the April 27th day, the fatalities really stand out in people's minds, and those dates kind of live longer in history, where you might have more productive tornado days and you're just lucky that not much was hit in terms of direct hits on towns.
Now, Rick Smith, I'll put you on the spot and ask you about June 8th, 1966. Do you remember what tornado hit that day?
June 8th, 1966. Was that Topeka?
Very good.
Wow.
Wow.
Which was another famous.
Impressive.
That was very impressive. So,
Well, thank you.
anybody have any memories about that big tornado?
I'm not that old.
Yeah, really. We're all.
Ask
we're all-
Brian if he has any memories. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you.
No,
Jasper
I'm just
got
kidding.
famous because of that tornado.
No, I really don't. I mean, I think if it's the one I'm thinking of, I think there were some photographs of that tornado that appeared in some books and encyclopedias that were really dramatic and scary. And back in the day, it was hard to find pictures of tornadoes, and you could wear out all the books in the library trying to find them. And I may be mixing things up, but I think that was one of the ones that had some fairly dramatic photos with it.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, Bill Curtis made his career off of that tornado at WIBW. Does anybody remember that?
I think you're right.
I think you're right. Yep.
And another thing was, there was a lot of damage and destruction in Topeka, but one thing that went down in flames that day was the myth that tornadoes wouldn't cross Burnet's Mound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I used that, the Topeka tornado, a lot when I was in Memphis because, as Rick probably remembers, the bluff on the river protects the town of Memphis.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And now the pyramid does it.
Oh, does the pyramid protect it now?
Yeah,
Wonderful.
the
Oh.
pyramid's on the bluff, so you've got double,
Oh,
double
win.
protection.
like a slam dunk.
That's all right. I was at my eye doctor's the other day, and I said, if I'm wearing my contacts and my glasses, why don't I see twice as well? That must be wise.
We're glad.
Speaking of that myth, I
Sorry.
have I'm sorry about that. Cutting you off, Bill.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I have to tell you a quick story about the river myth, because the day before Moore, unfortunately, the most recent Moore, my father-in-law, who lives in Northwest Norman, was telling me the reason he didn't build a storm shelter is because an engineer down the street told him that tornadoes never cross rivers. So of course the next day a tornado unfortunately crossed the Canadian River. I mean, it was almost eerie. But I hadn't heard that story. He's been in Norman for about 12 years, and I unfortunately heard that story the day before last year's tornado. It's just really sad.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
called him
prevalent
a-
in lots of places around the country. But yeah, there's all kinds of stories about the river and geography and topography and all kinds of things that really have nothing to do with tornadoes.
Well, Ken,
No,
we
and I
really
guess
appreciate.
there aren't many myths that remain standing, but there's still a lot of people out there that think that trailers attract tornadoes. They really think.
It pops up on Facebook every time we have an event in the South.
Yeah.
Well,
And
Ken, we really.
the reason they think that is because there's many more fatalities in trailers.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, Ken, we really appreciate you talking to us tonight, and you're welcome to stick around. Or if if you're an early to rise person, you're welcome to break off here. It's up to you.
I think we lost it, Bill.
He took me literally.
There's your answer.
Bye.
Oh goodness!
Oh.
I don't know that I've ever felt more disorganized than tonight. But anyway, so back to you, Jeff Craven. Now that we got the AMS out of the house, we can focus on the NWA. A lot of good things happening in that organization, and you.
Yeah, we had a mid-year meeting, and of course many of you, like Bill and Dr. Scala, are extreme volunteers, as we like to say, in the National Weather Association. And we had a very productive meeting, and we're at the National Weather Center now, the new office and permanent headquarters. So we were talking about the AMS that has that long-standing permanent address on Beacon Street there in Boston, and we now have a permanent address at the National Weather Center complex. We will be changing buildings here in a year or so, but we are right there in Norman, and we're very excited. And Janice Bunting is our executive director, and we're expecting a really great meeting here in Salt Lake City in October. It sounds like we've had record number of abstracts, around 300 submitted. So now the real challenge is paring down that in just about a 4 or 5 day program. That's going to be the challenge. So we're excited.
One thing we heard is that for the first time in 2 years, we don't have to worry about National Weather Service participation, and that's really critical to the event. Talk about that.
Well, it's never 100% guarantee, but it looks very promising. I think that the risks of some of the political impasses coming up in October are much lower than they've been in the past, and so I know that the director of the Weather Service, Dr. Louis Uccellini, is committed to science sharing, networking with all members of the weather enterprise at these meetings, and that he feels that it's important for NOAA and National Weather Service to be there, and he'll do whatever he can in his power to make sure that we can get there. So hopefully something strange doesn't happen here at the end, but if not, I would expect very good participation, and many of us are very frustrated over the last couple of years, and we're hoping to make up for that here in Salt Lake City.
Well, that's going to be very exciting. And in future years, do we know any of the other places will be coming up soon?
As a matter of fact, we don't want to take away and steal the thunder from Salt Lake City, but speaking of Oklahoma City Thunder, we will be coming to Oklahoma City in 2015, and we've already found a downtown Oklahoma City location, and at that there should be activities featuring, of course, our new headquarters at the National Weather Center, and of course that Norman is one of the true pioneers in showing how the synergy of the weather enterprise, having the public sector, the private sector, the academic sector, and of course right nearby you have a presence in the military sector at Tinker. So I think that is what we want to see going forward, is leveraging the full powers and synergies of the entire weather enterprise, not just the public sector like the Weather Service.
Now, Jeff, obviously this was a horrible winter by most standards. How did it affect you in Wisconsin, which actually happened to be in the same state as you tonight?
Where are you at?
Up in Madison.
You're in Madison. Well, that's great. It's really nice this time of year. I'll tell you what, it was a fascinating winter for me, because I grew up in Southern California, right in Oxnard, right near the coast, and so a cold morning was below 40 degrees. And the last eight winters I have experienced. It's not the first time I've been in a cold winter. I spent some time in State College, Pennsylvania, near where Dr. Sculler resides, but I guess what was really fascinating about this winter is the lack of thaws. And you had a couple of thaws for 2 or 3 days in the 30s, but it just never warmed up much above the 20s the whole time, and there were days and days and days in the teens and single digits for highs. The frost depth was really what was interesting. typically under the blanket of snow, you don't get a very deep frost depth. It actually insulates it. But what we saw happen, particularly in northern Wisconsin and in the upper part of UP of Michigan, frost depths exceeded 80 inches. In fact, I think 85 inches was measured in Marquette, Michigan. And the problem with that is a lot of the city water piping infrastructure is under the roads, and because you plow the roads, you don't have that insulating blanket, so there is massive amount of damage to the water infrastructures of lots of towns. In fact, to the point where they're trying to get federal disaster declarations in parts of that area because of the damage.
Now, Jeff, is that something that had not been encountered in memory in those areas?
Apparently not. Duluth, Minnesota had the most below zero temperatures ever recorded during the course of a winter. I know that in the 8 years we've been here, we have a water spigot in our barn, and the valve is 6 feet under, six feet underground, and it froze so bad that basically it was useless, which is the first time that's happened. Most of the neighbors that have been around here more than 30 years say, that it only rivals their memories of the 70s, some of the winters. So there was a lot of damage to some of the things. Normally I'm used to pipes freezing down in Louisiana or Mississippi when it gets cold, but not up in Wisconsin.
You learned to say that pretty well, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm picking up a few of the things, but the bubbler is the one I can never figure out. It's a water fountain. It's not a bubbler to me, but
there's a few areas I've heard referred to it as that.
Oh, and it's crick. So it's not a creek, it's a crick.
That's also an upstate New York thing, because my father says crick.
That's right. That's right.
John, they say that in Pennsylvania. I heard that in Pennsylvania a few times.
Yeah.
So you'll be going to the High Plains Conference in a few weeks. Talk about that, Joe.
Yeah, I'm excited. I thought it was important to find an excuse as NWO president to go and fly the flag at one of our local chapter meetings, and I'm really pleased. I haven't been to the High Plains Conference. I was actually involved a little bit when Jim Johnson at the Dodge City office was starting to think about getting a joint or a chapter of both the AMS and the NWA. I was the forecaster at Dodge City, and so I was kind of watched the seed get planted, and now I get to go back years later and see a very mature local chapter meeting, and I'm very excited to do that. That'll be around the 7th and 8th of August, I believe, or maybe 6th and 7th of August. So I'm looking forward to going to Hastings and networking with our friends out in the plains.
I get to go too for the first time this year. I've never been, so I'm looking forward to it also.
Great.
Rick, is Jim Johnson still at Dodge City?
I think he retired.
Yeah, Jim has stayed active, but he has been retired, I think, for about 5 years, I'm guessing, somewhere around there, maybe a little longer. He's an excellent actor. I tell you what, I used to get season tickets to the Dodge City Theater, and he would come out as an actor, and we'd get all served dinner, and he would finish serving dinner, and then he'd go up and act, and he was a fantastic actor. And I said, Jim, why didn't you act? He says, because I needed to be able to make payments on the rent and whatnot. So I was a meteorologist, but one of my passions is acting. So he's very, very talented actor. I was just amazed watching him. I don't know if he still acts, but I'll have to ask him that at the meeting.
Well, I can tell you this, he would have passed as a cowboy for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to have to take 20 paces and turn around. I think that that would be bad.
He fit right in Dodge City, that's for sure. Had to look.
He certainly did. Now, Mr. President, is there anything else that we can talk about from the meeting this weekend that's for general public consumption yet?
Well, I was.
Come on, give us a scoop, something that nobody else has.
Something good.
Some scoop we can give.
Well, I know there was some scoop that we were talking about, but I kind of thought we had to wait a little while for that. We don't want to let the cat out of the bag before October, do we?
Yeah, and some former presidents have gotten in trouble on this show, so we don't want that to happen.
But you are the president. I mean.
Well, let's just do this. Let's do a little tease. Let's just say that there has been a very interesting topic concerning weather blogs and people trying to give heads up to upcoming weather. And I think the NWA has a very nice way that we're going to try to uphold the integrity of some of the better weather blogs out there in the country. And I won't go past that because I really think that people will be excited to find out what that is as we get into October.
Well, I think you can fill in between the lines there because that's something that's come up on this show before, so that'll be very exciting. Since we've got a couple of great Weather Service people on the show tonight, talk about the importance of ITOs. Jeff, Rick, and those positions have been funded again for some period of time, right?
Yeah, Jeff, go ahead.
No, okay. Well, I don't think we have any official information, but I got some information during our meeting that suggested that things are looking up at least for FY15 for starting in October. But I'll just say it's very difficult because the information technology officer that works in our office in Milwaukee, Sullivan, I think, is one of the most valuable employees I know in the entire Weather Service. And in my opinion, I would rather see my job disappear in my office than his because of how valuable he is and all the innovation that he's brought. So that's about all I'll say about that, is that I would hate for personally see some of the talent out there. I would hope that somehow we were able to keep people like him in the Weather Service and doing great things, because a lot of the things that I've accomplished, there's no way. I mean, in fact, he's done almost all of the innovation, and I feel like I just have been happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. They are really the kind of the unsung heroes in a lot of Weather Service offices, and we probably need more than one. And not only do we need one, we probably need more than one. Aaron Anderson, who's our current ITO in Norman, before him Matt Foster and Steve Nelson. All three of those guys are just amazing, and you can go to them and say, wouldn't it be cool if we had this or we could do that, and then they work their magic, and there it is. And so much of the innovation, so much of the good stuff in the Weather Service comes from people like that. I certainly am not talented enough to do that, but man, it's great to have people that are. And I hope that what we're hearing is correct and that we're okay on the funding for that, because those are very, very important positions.
So
yeah,
Rick,
I see.
Talk for a minute about what an ITO does, and are all of them meteorologists, or are some of them just focused on IT?
Well, from my perspective, I don't want to speak for Rick, but I see a lot of the meteorologists that have technical skills get involved in the information technology officer, but some of them are purely computer specialists that work well with the ideas that meteorologists have, and others are meteorologists that just are really good with computers. Like Jerry Wiedenfeld is our information technology officer, and he's a meteorologist. He went to school at Valpo in Indiana, but then he's just acquired really good skills with especially Unix-based systems.
Yeah, I don't think you have to be a meteorologist to be an ITO, but a lot of people are. I mean, it helps to speak the language, and it helps, to be able to say, for them to be able to understand the problems, whether it's an issue with AWIPS2 that we're testing and rolling out, or whether it's an issue with some ingesting some model or initializing our gridded forecast with a certain model, or it helps to be able to speak that language, I think. But it's well, I'll give you one example. Aaron, our ITO, was very instrumental in developing this tool that we used during the May tornadoes last year to provide almost a real-time tornado track to the first responders and emergency managers. So he was actually sitting in the chair and producing that map for us and working out the kinks, the technical kinks, as we're going along. So we couldn't have done that without, or it would have been much more difficult to do that without him. So they're really kind of, it depends on the office. I think the duties are a little bit different, but they're into all kinds of things. Anything technology related, they're there to kind of, take care of those things.
So I'll ask you first, Rick, and then I'll ask you to chime in, Jeff. Good time, bad time to be looking for a job in the National Weather Service?
It's a good time for about, I don't know how many people it was, 65 or 70. We just filled like a whole bunch of meteorologist intern vacancies, some of which have been open for quite some time. So the talent pool out there is incredible. So we just got a lot of new people that just graduated from college or that haven't been in the Weather Service before into these entry-level jobs. And then we're going to see more hiring going on for forecasters and senior forecasters and on up into some of the management positions. So I don't know, if you're just coming out of school and you miss this current or this latest hiring wave that went on, then you're just going to have to pick up individual jobs as they come along. But overall, I mean, it certainly looks better than it did this time last year.
And anything to add to that, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely. There will be more opportunities, even for meteorologist interns, because we're here very shortly, within a week, the journey meteorologists, our general forecaster positions, will be filled, that have been open, and those will be filled with a lot of meteorologist interns that have been in the Weather Service, say, 2 or 3 years. So I'd say as we get out towards August or September, there will be another round of multiple meteorologist intern positions that come out. Yeah. Certainly not as many, I wouldn't think, as we saw just recently, but those that were very competitive and got close this last time around, there's going to be more opportunities, so keep those resumes updated.
Now, here's the part of the show where we go to Professor Peters, and since we don't have James here, I'll just leave a place for us to insert that. Brian, what's our topic tonight?
Fire swirls.
Ooh.
Oh, good. Fire swirls.
Fire tornadoes.
Fire-nados.
Fire-nados, yes.
Nationally beloved meteorologist and his picks. Now, I guess at this point we'll go to Aubrey. Aubrey, do you have any for us tonight?
I do. Let me pull it up. I have them. I didn't want to have them up because sometimes if I get an email, it makes noise. Okay.
In the jingle's playing.
We can play the jingle. I've got mail. I've got your letters.
Jingle.
I've got lots and lots of letters. All right. The first one comes in from Tarmo, and he shared with us the Estonia Meteorological and Hydraulical Institute, the new website that's in English. It's actually a really cool website. They have a lot of really cool graphics on there. I was flipping through it earlier. They've got sea surface temperatures and all sorts of fun stuff if you'd like to track Estonian weather. So he was telling us about the different changes. Here in Estonia, they call it the State Weather Service. On the website, it says Estonian Weather Service as the English name, yet its Russian name translates to National Weather Service, which is kind of cool. Also, I think the new local forecast option might be a bit something that could make James's head explode, given it is composed from an in-house HIR, I don't know how you, Hirlam model. Hirlam, HIRLAM model run. Also now we apparently are now in the county-based warning zone. Previously on the website, they would just slap a warning for the whole mainland if something was up here. Just throw everyone in the warning. But fog still strikes without warning. So I guess that's something they need to work on. And speaking of radars, I had these videos pulled up and I didn't get a chance to see them because I was running late on my weather segment. He posted 2 YouTube videos. And speaking of radars, we were talking about an MCV. Last week, someone had sent in a question. He put a time lapse up of some Finnish radar data. So thanks, Tarmo, for sending that in. And Jason Overcash sent in an email about polygons, and I am not up to date on the unusual Ohio-Kentucky warning polygon from this past week. I must have missed that one. Does anyone know what he's talking about?
Yes.
What was the oddity with that?
Well, it was a situation where when we issue our warning polygons along the edge of a different warning forecast office or weather service office, we can't issue a polygon that crosses. So if you have a river or some other reason why it's kind of an odd shape to your counties or whatnot, the polygon might try to go across that in the way our software goes, but we can't issue a warning into our neighboring forecast area. So what we have to do is we issue it, it takes a bite out of our polygon, and then the other office has to issue one and tuck it in there. So sometimes, because of differing opinions, maybe there's a tornado warning on one side and a severe thunderstorm warning on the other. And even though they may be very scientifically valid how it was done, it just is very confusing for a layman to look at them and try to figure out what you're trying to do. So I think that's probably what they're referring to.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, he said it brought back memories of a Charlotte-Harrisburg, North Carolina issue where a tornado was occurring and there was not a tornado warning issued, while a neighboring office did issue a tornado warning. So it sounds like a very similar situation. So I guess he was considering a turf war, but it sounds more like a software issue and just deeming what they feel would be the best situation.
Well, I think I think it's a combination of both. I think if you've watched, we're all humans and we all come up with a different way to handle a weather situation. So sometimes it's a disagreement on the potential outcome, and other times there are some things that go wrong in the way that the technology is designed that makes it confusing. So I would say both.
Would you, and part of his question is about broadcast meteorologists, so for the broadcast meteorologists, would you suggest for that kind of situation that they maybe say, well, this tornado warning does not include part of this area, but you still probably, need to take precaution?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, Aubrey. I ran into a circumstance in October of 2012 where the Sterling office was issuing a tornado warning north of Baltimore.
Okay.
And that cell crossed into State College's CWA.
Okay.
They did not issue a tornado warning. They went with a severe. And as it crossed actually through the county in which I live, there was intermittent rotation. They stayed with the severe, and then it crossed into Philadelphia's CWA, and they went to a tornado warning. So I was covering that with little bites in there, and then when it went to tornado warning, then I jumped in and talked about it. Well, I was involved in the damage survey the following day, and there was most definitely a tornado about 10 miles from my house.
Right.
So you
Okay.
just have to be on top of it and maintain vigilance and tell your viewers this is something to keep an eye on.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a very good. Those are good suggestions. Thank you.
But I'd like to also add, Aubrey, that I don't think there's any turf wars going on.
Right.
Turf wars. That gives the impression that, that well, you're issuing a warning, but I'm just not going to issue a warning for my area, and it isn't a turf war so much as it is, as Jeff just said, differences in opinions as to what, and to some extent, not just opinions, but also experience levels, and it does make it tough, as John points out, when you're on the air and this sort of thing happens. And we have a similar one in Central Alabama involving one of our counties in our DMA, but it's in one weather service area, whereas it's surrounded by another weather service area. So decisions are made, but it is not exactly a turf war. Nobody's fighting things out here. Everybody's still interested in public safety.
No, I agree with you.
And it happens because of that, because of differences in opinion. And I can't speak to that event, but I know that the Weather Service more than ever is really we're really trying to get better at this coordination and collaboration and consistency. And the storms don't care about those county warning area boundaries, and TV meteorologists shouldn't have to care about them, and people shouldn't have to care about them, but they're still there. So we have to learn how to deal with them, and we have different ways to coordinate and try to make the smooth, if a storm's passing from our area into Tulsa's area, for example, they know exactly what we're doing. They're seeing all the reports. So we try to make those handoffs smooth. Where it gets a little messy is a situation like this past week where it's along a river, right along a county warning area boundary. So it's, there's some software being tested in Norman and Hazardous Weather Test Bed that someday might kind of help with that. It may kind of help smooth some of those edges, or make those edges, I should say, fuzzier maybe between those office boundaries. But that's, it's an issue. But offices usually do a fairly good job of coordinating and making all that not look so, such a contrast.
Yeah. Aubrey, for sure. One of the things that's neat about social media and weather blogs is that regional and national headquarters of the Weather Service and the local offices find out about these discrepancies very quickly because they're pointed out. And in fact, this particular event was picked up almost immediately, and I was told that it might be a topic of discussion in breakout sessions at the National Warning Coordination Meteorologist meeting this week that's going on. So
and I think that may very well be true. So,
and now one other geeky way to talk about this is we've set what we call Gipper goals, which is it talks about what is the amount of false alarm we are willing to accept in our products, and it's tried to be calibrated with the needs of the customer. And if you look at tornado warnings, for the most part, we're looking at about a 30% chance of occurrence of a tornado in that particular warning, or roughly a 70% false alarm rate. And I'm being kind of general here, but if you think about that, we don't necessarily have a number that pops up on the screen that says there's a 32% chance of a tornado or there's a 27% chance of a tornado. So if we're doing that sort of subjectively as we're sitting there in our offices looking at the storm environment and our radars. So a lot of times these situations where you see those discrepancies are right on the edge. Usually in really obvious situations you'll get the same type of warning, but so I think I agree with Brian. I don't think it's a turf battle in terms of us versus them from one office to the other.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Good call. Interesting how it's going to become a topic of discussion, though. And then last week, was it last week we were talking about social media? I feel like it was like 3 weeks ago. Maybe that's just me.
It was.
Was it last week? Oh man. Last week, this one came in from Todd Foisey, and he is the Science and Operations Officer in Caribou, Maine. And he said on the last show, we all mentioned that Twitter was more of a hit in our areas, and they couldn't be more different here in northern and eastern Maine with the Caribou social media presence. They try very hard on both Facebook and Twitter, but they get way more interaction on Facebook. The local TV station has observed the same thing to an even more extreme degree. They actually had one Facebook post that reached over 800,000 people. Different types of posts do well on different platforms. On Facebook, forecast info does well, especially involving winter weather. Mostly because people love winter weather up there. On Twitter, because most of our audience is outside the area, local forecast info doesn't get retweeted, although things like cool weather tidbits do get retweeted. I think us being a Facebook market is because of the demographics of our area. Poor, rural, elderly, not your classic Twitter user. Facebook does quite well, however, which is very interesting. You know, kind of in our area, the Shenandoah Valley, our TV station in particular does reach more people on Facebook than on Twitter. A lot of that is because some of the area is still on dial-up, and part of the area, especially into the mountains, doesn't have internet capability. So granted, people can get that on their phones, but I think Twitter is just still somewhat of a new thing for some of the people in this area. So Facebook, we do end up reaching more people on Facebook than Twitter. I just prefer Twitter, I know personally, but we were talking about that. But it's exciting or interesting to see how the different markets are using this. Any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions?
I think it's really, you know, just like weather is local, I think the social media is local, and what works and what's popular.
Yeah.
It's going to depend on the area and the weather and, you know, all kinds of things. So, yeah, whatever works. And I know Todd is really, they've done some really cool things up there with their Facebook, and they've built quite a following. So, you know, that happens.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see this. And then this one comes in from Brendan, and I don't think I read this before. I'm getting my dates off. It's been a busy week, guys. This may come off as a shameless self-promotion, but he runs a weather blog out of Denver, weather5280.com, and recently posted on some troubles with social media, storm chasing, and the growing issue of bogus reports. It's become a huge problem in Colorado, and I actually saw on Twitter yesterday a meteorologist who retweeted a picture and asked for confirmation about a tornado picture, asking some other area meteorologist, asking if this was a real picture from today or not. So it sounds like it, you know, it definitely is an issue as more chasers hit the road, possibly unprepared for what they're looking for. He feels that there could be further discussion, so I'd throw it out as a topic idea. Would love to hear what we would have to say on the topic, and he also has a post on it. So I know James has touched on that topic before, so that might definitely be a show topic for the future about, you know, some of these fake photos. I had one sent into our station, which, you know, you don't get tornadoes very often, but I had a fake tornado picture sent in to me about 4 hours before a tornado watch was issued, and the day was completely clear and sunny. And when I asked the guy for the time and the exact location so I could pass it off to the National Weather Service, I didn't hear back from him. So I took that as a, you know, it's probably not real. When I was just, you know, emailing with NWS, I said, you know, they couldn't find anything. I said, you know, I didn't see anything. You know, I said he never got back to me when I asked for time and location. So. And that's all I have. So if you have an email, a suggestion, a guest suggestion, or a topic suggestion, you can email us, email@weatherbrains.com. You can find us, our website online, weatherbrains.com, or you can find us all on Facebook and on Twitter. We'd love to hear from you, what you like, even what you don't like, or any suggestions, topics you would like to hear about.
Excellent job, Aubrey. Thank you very much, and it's great having all these excellent minds on the show to help clear up those discussions within Weather Service offices, both historical and current. But thank you for that. It's time to go around the table now, the big digital mahogany table, and talk about picks. And I'll start with Brian Peters on the left side of my screen.
Well, and you didn't hear the WeatherBrains 101, but I'm going to pick a YouTube video of a 2012 Australian wildfire with some absolutely spectacular fire swirls, fire nados, fire tornadoes, whatever you want to call them.
Outstanding, and we'll get that pickup on the website. Dr. John Scala?
Sure, Bill. We've been talking about historical weather today. I don't know if everyone realizes, but today is also the 42nd anniversary of the Great Rapid City flood that caused more than 200 fatalities. But what I found was a recent article that was published in Washington, the Capital Weather Gang in Washington by Jason Seminow, and what he was talking about was some astonishing weather up in Duluth, Minnesota. Now, we were talking about the winter and how Jeff Craven was mentioning just how persistent that cold was. Well, he's got in his article here some pictures of ice still remaining on Lake Superior, in fact, on Memorial Day.
Isn't that amazing?
And in addition to that, he's got some bathers out sitting on ice in the lake. And it was also a record high in Duluth on the 26th of May. So it was 85 degrees, and you have some bathers sitting on some ice in the lake.
I love it.
It's great.
Just amazing. And a question for Jeff Craven. Jeff, with that ice still on parts of the lakes, does that affect weather conditions downwind, or will it affect summer substantially?
Well, I'll tell you what, when there's an east wind, it affects me because the water temperature, last I checked, the water temperature at the South Buoy in Lake Michigan, which is east of Racine, was still about 38 or 39 degrees. So when the wind turns east and it's June, I mean it can drop very rapidly, and you can still have temperatures in the 40s, even in the afternoon near Lake Michigan. So it is definitely an impact, and I would say. It's already shown to be an impact on some of the high temperatures and some of the thunderstorm events we've had. So I would say it has a huge impact. And I think it's running obviously well below normal. But June typically is a little bit cool with the water temperatures. But in some years it's been well into the 40s and even lower 50s by now. So yeah, that's the first impact.
Yeah,
So,
Jeff, my daughter's in Chicago, and I've been noticing that the forecasts out of the Chicago office there have had some dramatically larger values between lakeshore, and slightly inland. And I was wondering if that was a big impact for you all up there, and it sounds like it is.
Yeah, what's amazing is if it's actually a very, at times, rapid gradient from the lake shore to even a mile inland. Even just looking at, say, the Milwaukee airport, if you often have to see the harbor temperature sensors, and they'll often be 5 or 10 degrees colder than just a mile inland. So it's a big impact.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm well inland, at least this time. Now in the fall, it's great. Then you want to be near the lake so you can have nicer weather.
So Jeff, is there any chance that this will have an effect on an early onset of winter next late fall and early winter?
What about winter 2018? Just ask him about that, Bill.
Oh yeah, fill us in, Jeff.
It's going to be El Nino, so I'm thinking this is going to be great because even if we're near normal, which sometimes it's not particularly warm in El Nino winters, near normal is going to feel great. So I'm ready.
All right, we'll go around the table to Aubrey. Aubrey, what's your pick?
Mine is a cool infographic about some interesting lightning facts. I just picked something different than the NOAA lightning safety facts. We've seen just a lot of severe storms, but this one has some interesting lightning facts on it. We're getting close to Lightning Safety Awareness Week around the country and a summer of storms.
Outstanding. Rick Smith, you got a pick for us from up there in
I've got a pick and a half. How about that?
Good Lord.
I've got a pick and a hashtag. Let's say it that way. If you're the WCM, the Warning Coordination Meteorologist and Service Coordination Hydrologist, are partners at the River Forecast Center. Our conference is June 10th, 11th, and 12th. So we're going to be tweeting from the conference, and the hashtag is #WCMSCH 2014. It's a little long. I didn't make it up, but you can follow along with that. And even if you're listening to this after the conference is over, you can go back and search for that. And there's going to be some interesting information there. So that's the half. And then I know Doug Hildebrandt was on a few weeks ago and probably talked about, I know he talked about the Weather Ready Nation ambassadors and all the new things going on, but I wanted to make that my pick of the week because that's really the cornerstone of all of our meetings going on here this week, and everything that we're doing it's all about a Weather Ready Nation. So the Weather Ready Nation page we'll put up on the website has a lot of good information, and you can see the list of all the ambassadors that have been recognized recently, and there's just a lot of cool information there year-round, not just tornadoes, but it's any kind of weather that you need to be ready for.
Yeah.
So Rick, anything else expected to come out of your meeting this week there at headquarters?
We've got a lot of cool stuff planned. Dr. Laura Myers is here, friend of the show, obviously, and had a meeting with her this afternoon. We got some breakout sessions planned. We're going to be talking a lot about integrating social science more into National Weather Service operations, trying to really figure out what that really means practically. And Dr. Uccellini will be here, and just it's really a who's who of weather people. We're fortunate to be able to have the meeting here in the Silver Spring area, so we can have access to all these great people. But I'll give you a report next week maybe.
Outstanding. We'll look forward to that. We'll turn it over to Jeff Craven for a pick. Jeff, you got a pick for us?
Yes, I recommend with our brethren at NOAA at the Office of Atmospheric Research, Earth Systems Research Laboratory. Rick Smith is on the outreach and services side of the Weather Service as a warning coordination meteorologist and supporting Weather Ready Nation. From the science perspective, I think as a science officer, I like this site that looks at reforecasts of our global ensemble forecast system to calibrate experimental tornado probabilities. And in fact, I was looking at it today over Alabama, and it shows a very unusual combination of instability and vertical wind shear right over Alabama today, and of course a severe squall line was going through. So that was, I think that's a really neat site, and it's easy to find.
Well, I tell you, it was really fun at the NWA mid-year meeting on Saturday to have Council Member Greg Carbon stand up and give a weather briefing. So that was a lot of fun. So thanks for that pick, and thanks for being on the show tonight, Jeff.
Well, thank you. It's always my pleasure.
And my pick of the week is deference to what Dr. Scala said. My post this morning on Alabama WX was about the Rapid City flood in 1972 that occurred on this date. And, what we don't think about is that flash floods, in the 1970s were horrible. One of the worst decades for flash flood deaths in U.S. history, because you had floods at Buffalo Creek, Big Thompson Canyon, Johnstown, PA, Kansas City, and someone reminded me today, Toccoa, Georgia. Those were devastating floods. And during that period from 1972 to 2001, floods killed an average of 127 people a year. And that average has been dropping. So between 1984 and 2013, the 30-year average has now dropped to 85, and our 10-year average is down to 75. So I hope I'm not jinxing us by saying that tonight. Not being superstitious, especially with Friday the 13th coming up. But
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Now you
That's when I'm flying home. Don't talk about that.
now wasn't Rapid City? Did you mention Rapid City? Wasn't that in that? There was a bad one in Rapid
Yes,
City?
it was actually what the post was about. And, of course, Dr. Scala mentioned that it killed over 200 people, 239 people.
It's a full moon on the 13th also.
Awesome.
I'll tell you, when I bartended on Friday the 13th on a full moon, I've never had a worse night. They're horrible. They can say that there's no correlation, but
You've got proof, right?
you can't fool me. I used to be a bank teller too, and yeah, not so much.
So Rick,
Change flight times and dates. Making myself a note.
Yeah, because I was thinking, well, you have to fly home after the WCM meeting. There's going to be gridlock all over the airspace. I hope not.
Yeah. Well, I packed extra clothes, so.
You could rent a car back. That would be a scenic drive.
Yeah. Get back in time for work on Monday, maybe.
You could take the train, Rick. Take you like
There you
17
go.
days.
That'd be even funner.
That might be bad luck too, though. But anyway, thanks to our guest tonight, Ken Heidemann. He was a great guest and a great guest panelist, and Jeff Craven. Next week we'll have Susan Jasko, one of our favorite people. Then Mark Mancuso from AccuWeather will join us on the 23rd. On the 25th, now this is a heads up for everyone. Everyone gets really upset when we move these dates, but because of James's vacation, the Wednesday, June 25th, will be the show 440, and that's the one with Jim Ed. So mark that on your calendar that'll be a Wednesday night show. And then Monday, July the 7th, the next guest on my list, well, that's actually still a TBD, but we'll have the tables turned on us on July the 14th by Jen Henderson, and she's going to actually interview the motley crew of folks here on WeatherBrains. So that's what's coming up in future shows. Anybody else got anything to add before we adjourn tonight? Nothing.
No, I hope James doesn't have to spend too much time and get that squall line out of there and have it die down.
It looks like maybe it's weakening a little bit as it moves into eastern Jefferson County, but as soon as I say that, there's a report of several trees down along Huffman Road in the eastern part of the county, so maybe
that happens every time you guys say something like that.
Amen.
We're just jinxing ourselves. For sure. So anyway, that's all the news that's fit to print from here. So seeing no further business, we'll put show 437 in the books. WeatherBrains is the weekly netcast that's all about weather. We generally record the show Monday nights at 8:30 Central Time. Big Brains Media is responsible for the production of it. This group of weather nerds that you've grown to know and love loves to do this show. And, of course, you can always access it in a variety of ways. Podcasts, your favorite iTunes or Stitcher method. You don't get to see Aubrey's bright smiling face if you do it that way, though. If you watch it live on Google Plus or at bigbrainsmedia.com, live.bigbrainsmedia.com as it is recorded, or you can, of course, view it on YouTube or at weatherbrains.com. So just search for WeatherBrains on any of your platforms and you'll find the show. But send your guest suggestions, comments, and stuff to email at weatherbrains.com. And don't forget to leave a comment if you're on iTunes or Stitchers. And until next Monday night, when our guest weather brain will be Susan Jasko. This is guest weather booking officer Bill Murray saying good night and God bless.
Good night.
Good night.
Guys, it was a pleasure.
Thanks, Aubrey.
I'd say that, Aubrey.
Oh, come on, Bill.
He's being nice.
Sticking in there tonight. This was tough. But we had good guests at least.
Well, now go home and have a beverage.
Yeah.
Bill,
Diet
Bill,
Pepsi.
Thanks so much, Bill. I really enjoy being on, and it's looks like you guys have a lot of fun. I didn't. So Dr. Scala is a regular. I didn't know that. That's great.
He's permanent now. He can't get out of it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
See ya.
Rich.
Enjoy
Nice.
the conference.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
All right, Jeff.
All right. Take care.
See you later.
Uh-oh. There's people still here. Wow. As you can see, I'm in the dark. I think we're on the generator here, as a matter of fact. I am so sorry I had to miss this one tonight, but unfortunately, my income is derived from doing a certain job involving the television station. I have to take care of business tonight, but hopefully next Monday night will be calmer. But having said that, even now, I've got to go. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great week. We'll do the post-show talk next week. Bye.